Welcome to WYCD Wicked That Stands for What You Can Do. It's your old pal Jake, and this is an Anything Goes call in show. Yeah, anything you want to talk about, we can talk about when you call in to this link right cha. This is the link that you click if you want to call in. You can be on camera or off. That's fine as long as you have a microphone on account of I can only read lips when it's the letter hack talking. Stand by. I didn't mute my other stream. There we are. Yes, I can only read lips when it's the letter hack talking. Uh, it's a very specific skill set that I have. Want to give you a quick piece of news to start off. Trump wins in South Carolina, at least in the Republican primary, where voters aren't terribly savvy. But it's not all bad news. It was not a landslide. Let's see here. Oh, plus 44. There we go. 63% reporting. As of now, Donald Trump appears to have gotten 60% of the vote, with Nikki Haley raking in about 39% of the vote. It's closer to 61 to 39. Ron DeSantis somehow got 0.4% of the vote. That's fun. Ooh, I'm blowing up over here. All right, I'm afraid I've got to close the Discord because I don't know what it's telling me. Yes, he got 61% of the vote to Haley's 39. The point being, Nikki Haley is not totally out of the game. She's not going to get the nomination. That's been abundantly clear. But that's a good fight. That's a strong second place. And considering that she was running with the expectation that she would come in second, not bad. Not bad. This leaves open the options that I would assume she wanted open when she took on this endeavor. You see, if she was a DeSantis getting a 0.4% of the vote or even a 4% of the vote, that wouldn't really impress all that much. But when Haley is left with her decent performance and Trump is in prison, might start to look a little bit different. There might be some announcements made when the Republicans in general, whether Trump or Haley are at the helm, lose to Joe Biden in November, should that come to pass. 2028 looks a lot better for Haley. She'll be remembered as the Republicans having had their chance in 24, and people might be willing to give her a try again. She's basically betting on America. It's a rare thing to see a Republican doing, but she's betting on America still existing, because if Trump is elected this November, that's it for elections, gang. It's the end of it right there. They are going to do away with democracy. They have made that clear. Trump tried, pathetically, but he did try to hold on to power with force before. We have not responded so far in the way that that requires. And the end result is that if he's elected, he's just going to try again. It's a bit of a bummer. So let's talk about something, anything else, or that if you want, because we've got an old friend of the stream on the line. Donald James, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Hello.
All right, good. Everything's checking out. Check, check. Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, yes, good, good, good.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. It's going good. Just chilling like a villain.
I caught a little of your well, not your live session, but the recording of your playing the other day. I appreciated it.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well,
What? Hey, real quick, what's the deal here? I see that you've got. I believe it's "We Don't Need Another Hero" by Tina Turner on your track
Dude,
lists there, but I have never heard you take a whack at it.
that's because I gotta
What
practice
gives?
it. I gotta practice it again. It's kind of a hard
All right.
song. It's kind of it's something you have to remember. It's like an odd key. It's an odd key, but
True. And you're up there
yeah,
with the pan flute playing. It's gonna be a difficult one, but one day you'll do it again, and I hope I'm there for it because that's an old
I,
favorite.
well, I'll do it.
The
I'll do it.
Baker's dozen yet, so.
I'll do it just
Well, excellent. What did you have in mind? What do you wanna talk about?
well. Um. Trump. I guess Trump did.
He
And
did. Yeah.
uh, shoot.
Brutal.
I actually don't. I I really anything to talk about. Nothing comes to mind.
That's all good. I have a suggestion then, and
Unless
this
you
is
want to bring up a
I
topic,
welcome anybody. I do.
right?
And feel free to switch it to whatever you want, whenever you want. But here's what's rattling around in my brain. How do we reach inactive voters, people that don't normally vote? What comes to mind when you think of that as a problem to solve? Let's start with this. Do you know inactive voters? Are you aware
Well,
of people in your life
yeah.
that don't vote?
Well,
What's the
yeah.
deal? Why do they say they don't vote?
Well, like in my house, nobody votes here because the Jehovah's Witnesses, and
Ah,
Jehovah's
you can
Witnesses.
be yeah.
So you're not going to convince.
No, no.
I've had extensive with like an elder. They call them elders, like top dogs of the congregation.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
I used to work with him, and he's right wing. You know, religious people are right wing, right? And
Sadly true.
right. So I used to work with him. He would come pick me up. Into politics too. When I like every day,
Mm.
I just discovered TYT, um, and at the time because what else better.
Yeah.
um, some people you're just convinced to vote. They're an example.
No,
You
that's
know,
true. And I would say Jehovah's Witnesses are a rare case where I wouldn't even try, simply because it's
right?
literally a matter of religious belief. The Watchtower Society says, we will be in the world, but not part of it. I understand that. But how about those folks who are out there that don't have necessarily a religious inspiration and just don't vote? Even if it's a bad idea that you later think, I take it back. Does anything jump to mind? Or how about this? What made you first get interested in politics?
And well, if you want me to go, well, I've always been
What made you
always
PYT?
um. Well, first of all, I've always been right. I I I
Sure.
I wouldn't have categorized myself like a progressive back then when I was I've always believed in human rights, all the common sense stuff, and
Yeah.
when I got older, those views until because even when I was younger, I've always liked Michael Moore,
Ah.
and so I movies, even though
Yeah.
back then, I wasn't political back then, but his movies made me think, oh shit, and then it gets in your mind. It wasn't until I saw his movie Sicko, that I
Okay.
started, and the way he compared how other countries have healthcare, but we don't. And I really started diving into into cable news, and then I was on YouTube all
Yeah.
the time, anyways, back in those days because I was listening to music on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Started looking back into like 2009, and
Hmm.
TYT popped up in the algorithm, and I saw Tank back then, and he was tearing into what's her name, Sarah Palin. Sarah
Oh
Palin,
yes. Good days.
you know, I got hooked, and then I got hooked on TYT ever since. And so that's how I got into it.
Okay. I mean, that seems like a pretty logical chain of events to me. And
Right.
I wonder how much of that we could replicate. I wonder what the well, let's just dive into it. What when you were first seeing like Sicko and you were looking at other countries and realizing that they, in some ways other folks have it better. Was that like a surprise to you? Did it change the way you viewed the country you were in?
Absolutely, because I did not know that. I wasn't aware. You know,
Mm.
I
Maybe that's that I mean, that might just be the
go ahead.
core of it right there. Just turning and pointing at England and saying, like, if somebody wants to get patched up there, it costs them nothing. Pointing at Canada and saying, if somebody wants to get patched up there and they're a citizen of Canada, costs them nothing. I that
Right.
that's an interesting way to view it. Alright.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
certainly appreciate it.
And so I you know that's why when the national polls and everything's like progressive, like the topic
Yeah.
issue, you know, everybody's progressive,
Yeah.
but they don't. Nobody can go up to
Yes.
you can go up to anybody. You can go up to anybody and be like, "Oh yeah, free healthcare. That makes sense to me." Or not free health, national healthcare, and
Yeah.
common sense. Just common sense. People active is a hard question.
I think you've hit on the core of it by starting with showing that the things we're talking about can be done, and in fact have been done, and in fact are being done elsewhere, and
Yeah.
then go from there. Say, well, guess who's in charge of making that happen? If you want it here, politicians. Pick the right one, put them in the job.
Yeah. My mom keeps telling me that I'm, I don't just recently Gavin Newsom is now going to jump in the race.
For for president,
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
That's
looking
what.
that
Okay.
up.
Yeah. Look it up. I
It's
mean,
a rumor. It's a
that's
rumor.
a
Let's have
rumor.
a look.
I don't know. So get on the ball. Let's figure this out.
Uh, so he
I got.
obviously he hasn't officially announced, but I'm not seeing. Let me put it like this: I don't see him even hinting at the announcement.
Okay.
But between us chickens, you no, I mean, come on. He did that debate with Ron DeSantis. He's been making the
Yeah.
rounds talking about national issues. I think your mom's right. I think
I think
he's
that's what she
sharpening
meant.
his
Yeah.
knife.
Right. Right. Um.
Oh,
Well. Okay. Wait.
honest opinion here. There are no wrong answers. It's just your gut feeling. If Gavin Newsom got the nomination tomorrow through some random happenstance, would you feel more or less confident about November against Trump?
Um. I think if Gavin Newsom would openly advocate for being pro-Palestine and making the argument that if he will stop Netanyahu, I will not fund. If he was to say that, if he was to jump into the race, I think
I suspect you would be right. Here's my thoughts on it broadly. I would assume that that's just him reading the political winds, and it would make me very happy because it would mean his assessment of the situation is more optimistic for me than mine. I don't think that the average Democrat, much less the average voter, has the same view of Palestine that progressives do. Um,
Right.
I
Right.
think the sort of people who represent the average voter have listened to maybe 10 minutes of coverage about this in the last 6 months. So that's a hell of a hurdle. But that said, it's pretty hard to ignore the numbers. And the numbers are, I think we're at 30,000 civilians killed.
Yeah.
Eventually,
Yeah.
eventually
All,
that dam will break.
yeah. And all Gavin would have to do if he's running is hint that cease fire and go in the other direction. Israel just stop, right? And
Yeah,
all you have to do, progressives will pick up on it. Stuff like
absolutely.
that, but he won't have to make it a major part of his campaign.
True. He would really
You know what I
only
mean?
need a head nod to it, and we would pick up that ball and run with it. And I have a live correction for your old pal Jake. You were right, Donald James, and I was wrong. According to the anti-corporatist, 52% of Democrats want a ceasefire. That is 52%. So that's a net gain. That would be the right move. Let's hope. Let's
Well,
hope that.
yeah. I mean,
I can't believe I'm saying this, but Joe Biden
Democrat,
says, "You know what? That's enough presidenting."
right? So Democrat.
Y-
Yeah, I mean, about that part, that is true. Like how the DNC would treat him if he did say that.
oh,
Yeah,
honestly,
but
Newsom is
he would
such a
get the
middle of the
favor of the
road.
voters. No, I know.
Yeah, and there's a lot I don't like about Newsom, but there's also some benefits to the very things I don't like about him. He's such a power player that, like a deal maker, that I honestly think he could pull off slightly more radical policy just by virtue of the fact that he's got so much leeway with some monsters. Donald James, thank you for calling in. I'm going to switch over to our next caller, but I appreciate you
All right.
once
Yeah,
again jumping in and
sure.
helping out.
Yeah, it was nice of you.
Yeah, it was nice speculating with you too. I'll see you around, brother man.
All right.
Oh yeah, a good person to look at, Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, good lord. Because, like it or not, I suspect he is on the path to a presidential run. It's a realistic thing to look at for the future. Discussing whatever he wants our next topic to be is our next guest. You might recognize him from Wicked Fight Night and Punchki Day stream. Also, he has his own YouTube channel called My Dramatic Impact. It's Wireless Mike. Hey, Mike, how are you?
It's me. Hang on. I'm coming. Hey, buddy. I'm good.
Good
How
to
are
hear
you?
from you. I'm good. I'm very good.
I thought there was
I
somebody in line ahead of me. I wasn't quite prepared.
I had former President Obama on the line, but I saw you were coming up, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
come on, I'm
oh,
bumping Obama."
well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. That's
Obviously,
awfully kind of you.
I think yeah. Oh, he hung up. Well, I think he might have been angry that I called him
Oh,
Barry in the private chat. Eh.
oh yeah. You got a little too familiar.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, how you been, man? Since
Uh,
Punchki Day.
so I've been wanting to find a way to find some of those things. I want to try them. They look and sound pretty good.
Oh my God, they are. They come with an insulin injector, but it's worth it.
Well, then I probably shouldn't. I might be borderline diabetic by this point, so I should probably not be experimenting with sweets that I'm not already familiar with.
Once in your life, just once, on Punchki Day, you gotta have one. And then you will be officially, I think, you can apply for citizenship in Poland then. I think you're allowed to at that point.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have the photographic evidence.
Isn't
What
it
did
cold
what's
there a lot
on
though?
Hmm?
Isn't it cold there a lot though? I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
high up above the equator, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
next door to Russia. So,
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
cold.
There's I'm sorry, Poland. Not until the Putin is in the ground.
We're working on it, baby.
Yeah, God, I
One
wish,
hope.
man.
The what I've been doing to encourage that along is catfishing him with a series of social media accounts, convincing him that I am a beautiful Russian lady, and then just jumping out in front of the camera and saying "Mah." It hasn't worked. It just makes him angry, but I'm hoping trigger a heart attack soon.
Oh man, I God, I don't like wishing harm on anybody, even like some of the worst. But there's just every now and then there's individuals that just bring the worst out in me, and
Yeah,
I would just I just cannot help but wish just the absolute slowest,
I know.
most painful, just horrible demise for that low life piece of garbage. Him and Trump both.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, look, internet. You want to know the real reality of us insufferable lefties? If you were to look into our hearts deep down, you would find that our realest, truest wish would be for these people to just one day wake up and realize that being bad is bad. Be,
Yeah,
being
yeah.
cruel is not a kind thing to do, and to
It's
change their ways.
one of the things that I hate the most about this awfulness that Trump has made, and MAGA in general has made it now, I guess, mainstream and normalized, is the fact that they just the sound of their voices or the looks on their smug fucking faces when they say the dumbest shit in the world. It makes people like us, who are generally decent people, who don't want to hurt anybody. We don't wish harm on people, but it automatically brings up this bubbling of hatred and seething disgust and disdain. And in doing so, it blackens our own hearts to the point
Yeah,
where
yeah.
they've already won. They've already won because they've taken our otherwise calmer, better natures and turned it into something equally as heinous and hideous as what's rolling around in that empty cavity where their heart should be. And
Yeah,
it's disgusting.
I dislike that they make us all worse people through their presence. And the problem is that it's in our nature to be kind, but it doesn't feel right to be kind to someone who is being cruel to somebody else.
Exactly.
At that point, you're not a nice person. You're an what do you
You're an
call it? A
ableist.
collaborator, enabler. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are
You're
an
an
enabler.
enabler. It Yeah, yeah,
I like it.
I don't like myself when I'm thinking the things I think about the MAGA crowd and and like, we've had this discussion before. People like in my own family and in the old church that I used to go, people of my own religion, that I sit and I hear just this horrible, stupid shit pouring out of their mouth holes. And it's like, I'm tired of having to defend my beliefs because I think I said this or I was discussing this with Foxy the other day. I'm tired of having to defend my personal beliefs because a handful of Bible thumping better than you jackasses who are literalists and most of them don't even understand half of any of the teachings of Christ. Anyway, they have to turn every single issue into a damn holy war.
Yes.
Everything. Every
Yes.
single thing. They have to take just the slightest little thing and turn it into a damn holy war. Like that jackass down in Alabama who just that judge who had to
Yeah.
insert all of that
Sad,
stupid
yeah.
biblical talk into his ruling. It is so
Which, side
pointless.
note, you have to think that virtually guarantees that it's gonna be overturned, because any judge above them who views their ruling will have to view the argument made to go along with it. We have a very clear
Not
separation of
necessarily
church.
anyone. Not necessarily, man. You got to think about the Trump appointed judges.
Good
There
point.
are those out there. I mean, look at Amy Coney Barrett. She
Yeah.
comes from a literal religious cult. I'm shocked that she was allowed to go to college and get a fucking law degree because of the kind of cult atmosphere that she grew up in. Have you ever seen, there was a documentary, and I forget how long ago this came out. I want to say it was probably around 2015 or 2016. Could have even been before that. It was on Netflix. It was called The Family. And it talked about this religious group. It's like a secretive, a secret society. Only they're a very, very religious secret society. They're basically the ones that started the what is it? The prayer breath they hold for all of the presidents
Yes.
every year.
Yeah.
Okay, this group, they have been conspiring since the early 70s, pretty much my entire life, to breed and educate and train and indoctrinate this army of biblical minded politicians and people to infiltrate all throughout Washington to work as pages and be office personnel, and basically embed them in every aspect of DC life around Washington.
I'm trying to remember. Is it the family specifically that is following that 7 mountains of influence
I want to
method?
say that it is. Yes, I mean, their whole doctrine
Yeah.
is to take America, in their words, take America back as the Christian nation that it's supposed to be. And it's just, and look, I'm not an atheist. I'm not going to be an atheist, but every time I hear these people say this kind of shit, it draws me that much closer to just throwing my hands up and saying, fuck it.
As
And I hate
strange
that.
as this is gonna as strange as it might sound,
Did
the
you freeze?
way I empathize most with this is how I feel about being a white guy. Like, I'm very proud of my Polish and Lithuanian heritage, but seeing
Right.
other honkies wandering around making an ass of us all,
Yeah.
just it's like I get secondhand embarrassment, and I feel like if you have a sincere religious belief, it has to be one of the most frustrating things in the world to
It
have somebody
is.
who just makes a mockery of it and uses it to do, frankly, anti Christ-like things.
It absolutely is. I think it was, I think David Feldman the other day said it perfectly. These people wouldn't know Jesus Christ if he read the New Testament to their faces. And he's right.
Absolutely.
It's like all this shit that they keep bringing up. It's all Old Testament shit that is like, it is the antithesis of everything New Testament. It's the antithesis of everything he was. I've seen it in the comments. I know there are people who watch this and who watch your show and who watch Letter Hack and a lot of the other lefties, and I've seen it many times in the comments. Jesus was a lefty. If these people ever saw, if they could go back in time and see the real Jesus, for one, they'd be furious because he's not white and blue-eyed, right? So
Who the hell's
that
this
right there,
Jesus guy?
yeah. What? Who's
Sorry to
this
make him so mad.
nappy-headed, dark-skinned, sandal wearing tree hugger who's kneeling down to whores and washing their feet? What the fuck is this? It's like their minds would start to eat themselves.
Wait a minute, that minority just flipped over that nice change counters table. Arrest him.
It's a robbery. Yeah, dude, it's maddening. It's maddening.
It is. By the way, for those who are not familiar with what we were talking about, I do want to define a term we used earlier. The Seven Mountains is a philosophy of, frankly, Christian nationalists, a group of Christian nationalists. Let's see. Bill Bright, founder of Campus Crusade, and Lauren Cunningham, founder of Youth with a Mission, developed this strategy. And they concluded that in order to truly transform any nation with the gospel of Jesus Christ, these 7 facets of society must be reached: religion, family, education, government, media, arts and entertainment, and business. So if you've wondered why there is a surge after the 90s of these like Christian propaganda films, which are terrible and made by somebody that doesn't care about art at all, but does have a mission in mind. 7 Mountains.
Yeah.
Look up the 7 Mountains, and gang, you will be disheartened.
Mortified.
Yes,
You'll just be
legitimately
pissed
creepy.
off. You'll be freaked out by it. It's these people. It's the same kind of thing that I kind of heard whispers of as I was growing up among certain Southern Baptists who are of the mind that the Catholic Church, the basis of all Christian religion, by the way, like that was the first one, okay? But according to all these other Protestant religions, the Catholic Church is actually the Church of Satan. And that's I mean, this is the kind of weird shit that goes, and that's just the Baptists. You get to the Church of Christ people, and
as opposed to
they
the
think
Church of
that-
Satan, which is run by the Jews.
right? Yeah. But you get to the Church of Christ people, and those guys, they believe everybody's going to hell except them. Everybody. And it's like, I understand so much why people give up on it. I understand why atheists can be so verbally aggressive over it, and I understand it. I can identify with it.
I understand it, but I don't excuse it. As an atheist, I don't excuse it.
I don't either. I don't accept it. It's antithetical to the open-mindedness and accepting and accepting other people's beliefs.
And it's the irony, the sad thing. Let's dunk on atheists for a bit, because it's normally it's going the other way, and I want to nail something to the door of my own church here. The atheists who go out and trash all Christians or all Muslims or whatever are doing the very thing that made them so angry in the first place, which is generalizing about a group of people based on the behavior of a narrow subset of them.
Yeah, painting with a big old broad brush.
Yes, and also I note quite frequently refusing to learn when they are informed otherwise, which it's on, I think, other atheists who know better to speak up and inform them. If in the future and I'm not going to point anybody out, mostly because I can't think of anybody in the moment because I'm talking to a camera and it's live and I'm on the spot. But if you notice me talking to anybody who's mouthing off about Christians broadly and I'm failing to bring it up, not only do you have my blessing, you have my sincere request. Remind me that it's my duty to speak up and say, not all Christians.
I thank you for that, man. I really do. I thank you that, because that part of the reason I can't help but think that has helped to just exacerbate this whole
Yeah.
this whole idea that the right is pushing, it's like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
They're kind of proving certain factions of the right wing correct by targeting people for their personal beliefs. It's
Yeah.
and that's even more infuriating because I don't want these jackasses to be shown to be right about anything because they are so very wrong. They're so twisted in their beliefs. But every time somebody just targets a Christian just because they happen to have a bumper sticker or wearing a cross or say bless you when somebody sneezes, you're proving those psychos right.
Yeah.
You're justifying their fear, and you're making them double down on their belief that they have to turn everything into a holy war and that they're chosen by God to fight that battle.
Yeah.
And that's just making everything so much worse.
I think the two avenues of approach are first and foremost street epistemology, where everybody, regardless of where you begin, examines live in front of somebody who disagrees with you, preferably, the origin of your beliefs and explains the origin of a stated belief and asks for criticism. I think that is going to be extraordinarily useful. The other being, I'm trying to think of the correct word here. Let's say zealots, because it's the most accurate one. The zealots
Yeah.
of either side, the
Yeah.
atheists and the Christians and the whoever, to be jumped upon by the less aggressive how do I not even less aggressive, the chill people, the zealots not being allowed to control the conversation on behalf of the whole group. I don't know how that's done other than a series of slightly awkward conversations. Oh no, I've lost him. Well, I did take a long time to get that out. Can't blame him. I'm going to kick Mike out. I don't even have to. He's disappeared. I assume he'll return, but if not, thank you for joining. Welcome back.
I am back?
Yes, you're back.
Okay, that was weird. I don't know what the hell happened. I lost you for like probably
Oh,
a
I
full
angered
minute.
God. It's fine. It happens.
I think something you touched on earlier, and I'm sorry, I'll have to go back and rewatch what it was you just said because I do want to hear it.
Mm.
But I don't want you to unless you feel like repeating it.
No, I was just saying for the zealots not to be allowed to control the conversation. But we talked about that already. We're in
Yeah,
agreement there.
yeah. I I want I want to touch on something you asked earlier, like what do we do? What do we do to get non-voters to vote? Um,
Oh, hit me.
I don't really have an answer for that, but I think what we all really need to do on a regular basis is when we're out in public, when we find ourselves standing in line or in some awkward silence, just in, doing our general public thing, and we happen to strike up conversation with somebody.
Mm.
I do this all the time, small talk is great. You get a chuckle, you find a little something in common to make light banter about, but I always find some way to mention just, the madness that's going on around us and how it targets the people who are already weaker than everybody else or weakened in some way as opposed to uh all the decision makers that are making everything harder on all of us. And I
Yeah.
think that if we can bring things up in small talk and not be so specific, but just constantly remind people, hey man, vote every chance you get,
Mm.
because we need we need healthcare, we need education, we need separation of church and state, we need our rights preserved. And when you bring things up like that, people tend to smile and agree even if they don't agree, because they don't want to be rude. They don't want to start a big scene. And if they do want to start a big scene, those are the people whose minds you're not going to change. And they're probably going to cause a stink. And then most of the other people are going to see that as an example and be like, well, I sure as fuck don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, I think that's
Right?
incredibly important to remember. Whether it's fair or not, as soon as you mention whatever side you happen to be on, you become an advertisement for who that side is. So be kind, be
Right.
be decent, but also be strong.
And be
And say what
welcoming.
you
Be make
sure.
make it obvious that your consideration is for your considerations, or your thoughts or motives are making things better for everybody.
Yeah. And I do want
Make
to be clear for the record. I don't think kindness always takes the form of niceness, but I do think kindness is
no.
looking out for the best interests of other folks.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, kindness doesn't necessarily take the place of, no, I see what
Let
you
me put it
mean, but
like
I'm
this.
just saying, like,
If somebody is refusing to wake up because they're in a deep sleep, but they're in a house that is burning down, and you don't yell at them, you don't shake them because it would be unkind to wake them up rudely. You're
right.
not being kind. You're at best being maliciously polite. I do think I just want to be clear that there's room for being for disagreeing with folks. There's even room for telling people hard truths.
Yes,
As long
absolutely.
as you're like you search your heart and you're not saying these things because you want to hurt them. You're saying these things because you're genuinely trying to help them.
To
I
get a
think you're
point
okay.
across, yeah, to educate
Yeah.
them, or just remind them of something that they probably do already know, but have either forgotten or have looked the other way on because they felt the peer pressure that drove them, to start following uh, just the wrong moves. The people who are pushing them to vote against their own self-interests, let alone the
Yes.
interests of everybody else around
Yes.
them. And it's, I hear so many people all the time say, oh, we just need to tear it all down and build it all back from the start. No, that's the logistics of that are an impossibility. And especially in
Also,
this kind of
hey,
environment, it would never get built back.
that's not a plan. That's a pitch for
It
for a plan to be determined later, and we
yeah,
don't have that kind of time.
yeah,
It's plan time, baby.
exactly.
Mike, we have a new caller on the line, so I'm
Good.
going to turn it over to them. But I thank you for once again calling and once again being a fascinating person to talk to, my friend.
I enjoyed it. I love these talks, and I love this community, and yeah, man, be kind to each other, and let's change some hearts and minds,
I love it.
and let's not fight with the ones that aren't going to be changed. We can't help them. We're going to have to let them, but we can still save them falling on them. So
Absolutely. Thank you,
take
Mike.
care, everybody. Have a great weekend, and see you later.
Wireless Mike, an old friend of the show. I see there's Clarity here and Mr. G. If I caught that correctly, Mr. G was actually in first. So I'm going to take Mr. G first. Clarity, I hope you'll hang on because I'd love to talk to you both. Mr. G, what is going on?
Uh, it's funny. It was actually an accident that I got called in.
Yes, snuck in. Do
Uh,
you have anything you do want to talk about?
well, the only thing that I've had on my mind recently, and I've I've come into the chats on your. Hold on, I got to turn my TV volume down. I have you on my
Oh, I
TV
see.
on my
Hard to
phone.
tell.
So,
Oh,
the whole Israeli Palestinian thing. I've come into the chats with uh, the left past 10, and I've made comments. Basically, everybody's talking about, oh, I'm not going to vote for Biden because he's supporting this stuff. And from my perspective, Biden's job isn't to do the right thing. He's a leader of, the world's largest, or this, country, one of the largest, strongest, powerful countries, imperialistic,
Yeah.
and he's going to take care of the rich and the, wealthy and the people of power.
I don't like it, but you're not wrong.
Yeah. So from my understanding is that movements need to change. The bottom up movements need to change the leadership to to sway them to do the right thing. It takes us to and you can see the movement is growing to stop the and I don't it's just kind of one of those things where it's the Biden's not there to make the decision for me. It's my decision to go out and join the protests and the rallies and call my congressmen and senators and city council and but it's the fact that we aren't as active as a people in our government.
First of all, absolutely yes. I have learned so much, believe it or not, from MAGA. I just saw that a poll of Republicans came out that said that the majority of them, I don't know how much of a majority, but more than 50% of them view our alliance with Ukraine as important, even though the majority of Republican politicians have been terrible allies. And clearly, the Republicans do not care about, the politicians do not care about what is right and what is wrong. However, they flipped on a dime when it came to our allegiance with a whole country. This tells me that the MAGA wing of the Republican Party is way more active in writing, calling, showing up at the doorsteps of their representatives. And if we, progressives with the numbers, actually, there's a lot of us, would realize that that has an influence, we would see a wildly different behavior from our president and, frankly, all of our leaders.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think recent kind of go out to change topics slightly here.
Sure.
The movement that started, with Bernie Sanders of raising the minimum wage, really creating jobs. I can't even think of all of them right now, but that was the first time I've seen in my lifetime, and I'm 46. So this is the first time I saw in my lifetime a real movement for an economic change. And then just like that, it was, we're going to attack culturally the progressive people. Let's take women's rights away. Let's take let's start all these anti-LGBTQ laws. And it became a really big distraction on the left.
Yes.
From my perspective.
I think you're dead on. Yeah. Because it was clearly an argument that was being won by the progressives, to the point that I bring this up all of the time. The parts of Michigan that went for Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primary all went for Trump in the general election. And this is
Right.
not because we've now had years to look over these numbers. This is not because Bernie people stayed home. It's because genuinely independents in Michigan were willing to vote for Bernie, but they were not willing to vote for Hillary. That's
Right.
different. That's different than Bernie folks staying home. That's Bernie having a message to folks who are nobody's folks. So yes,
Yeah.
the Republicans were on the losing side there, and they knew it, and they did what they always do because it works, which is they attacked the vulnerable amongst us, and we had to scramble to protect them. And by the way, we failed to do that. Very sad, but you're right. It totally derailed the conversation that was beginning to be had about, frankly, a caste system in the United States.
Right.
What, in your
Well,
opinion, before you scram, if that's what you're gonna do, what,
okay.
in your opinion, is the way we get people who are not currently planning on voting interested in politics? Not even necessarily voting, just interested in politics.
Well, so I have to admit that I'm actually in the CPUSA. I get
Really?
a lot of backlash for it.
That's fascinating. You should have led with that. How on earth? No, tell me.
Um, so, um, our focus is workers' protections. Workers' protections are life protections. We do want everybody to have equal, balanced rights, protections, really protections. I don't want to, like, we distinguish between human rights and human protections. We're losing our protections every day. So the thing that I believe is the real connection is the fact that we cannot survive anymore.
Yeah.
You need 4 things on this planet to survive: food, shelter, education, and healthcare.
And healthcare, yeah.
And we're not getting it. And the more gains that the rich and the wealthy and the powerful have, the less we have. So
True.
I connect to people on that level. That's kind of I've even talked to right wingers that would debate about me on every, they're going
Yeah.
to attack me on everything.
They'll
I
attack
don't.
you on all the labels, but you can reach them on the issues, can't you?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's where all progressives, all leftists should come from is, hey, I'm missing a meal a week just like you. Hey, my family immigrated to this country just like somewhere down the line yours did. The things you really can connect with. And that's a thing from my perspective is the more you connect people to the same issues, the more they'll become conscious of how evenly balanced we are at being screwed
Yeah.
by not just the right, but the powerful.
Wholeheartedly agreed. All right, that's an issues first approach, and I would even go as far as say a problems first approach. When you hear people complaining about the things in their lives that politics can solve, show them. I think that's a good plan.
Yeah. I gotta say, I stumbled across the Left Past 10.
Ah,
Uh, uh, I don't know, a handful of episodes ago. Not, I'm new to it, but you guys really, I'm assuming it's because we're all roughly the same age. You guys are talking about a lot of things that I agree with. That uh, I feel like
algorithm's working.
I feel like I'm on the level with you guys. I watched
Yeah,
The
it's just
Leftist Mafia too, But
yes, I like them. I wish they would quit busting people's chops about age, though. Kills me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't have that much. I'm looking at these grays accumulating, my friends.
Right.
I don't know.
So, okay, so I have a one question.
All right, hit me. And then we're going to clarity. Be ready,
Okay.
clarity.
I'm actually considering I had a couple of YouTube channel. I've been, doing some background YouTube channel work.
Mm.
But I'm really thinking about jumping into the game. What advice would you give me?
I have very specific advice, and I truly don't know if it's good advice. So I give it to you with both with sincerity, but earnestness, and those are different things. I think I would recommend rushing and doing whatever is necessary to get monetized, because that will get you familiar with the things YouTube wants you to do, or whatever platform you choose to be on. Whatever they want you to do, you'll get familiar with the process of monetizing. And then your efforts, whatever they end up being, are going to be compensated. Even if it's like $5 a month that you get in ad revenue, you can at least then, it's not all hypothetical. So I think that's good. However, I sincerely believe that it's not a good thing to try to get as many people watching you as you can at once. I think you should try to get as many people watching you as you feel prepared to speak to. And that doesn't mean having a one-on-one conversation with everybody. That just means you might say some things or show some things that you're comfortable with 100 people hearing you say or show, or seeing you show. But if you were to find that you rushed all the way to 20,000, and then you look back on the product you've made and you think, I don't want to be known for that. Now you have work to do to change people's opinion of you. For example, you take on liability when you have a sea of people listening. So I would say rush to monetization and then decide what you want to be.
Okay. Well, the CPUSA has a channel that I will likely follow kind of the footsteps of what they do. The National has a channel, and it's just CPUSA. It's Communist Party USA is their
I am now
channel.
subscribed.
Oh, sweet. And
I'm
then
not thrilled with the hammer and sickle, but I get it.
plus a gear. There's a
But
gear
you're
there
right,
too.
plus a gear. That's the Lithuanian in me.
Right.
Let me
Anyway.
give you one other person. Truly, if you're looking to be on YouTube, you don't have to take inspiration only from people that talk about the things you want to talk about. The best made YouTube channel I have ever seen is the Taskmaster YouTube channel.
Okay.
They look at the way they do playlists, look at the way they do chapters and videos. It's just a British game show, but I'm obsessed with their YouTube channel because everything is laid out perfectly. I would look at them as, if you do want to get big, that's how you do it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'd be on the left side of everything, and mostly doing, politics.
That's the right side.
The biggest my biggest focus would likely be the government is secondary. The primary fight, the primary struggle is those in power, and those in power are the job creators, or big corporations, big banks, Walmarts, Amazons, taking on them, talking about unionization, talking about the workers' perspective of why the system is not working, and then government being secondary.
I think that's a wise way to look at it, because that will touch on how people feel. You'll be speaking to hearts and trusting that minds will follow.
Yeah.
I like it, my friend.
It has been a pleasure talking to the best mustache on the left.
You heard it here first, folks.
Uh,
Thank you so much, Mr. G. I hope to see you around, my friend.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, that was a lovely conversation, punctuated just perfectly. Just perfectly. Never mind what I said. My friend, you're ready for the big time when you have insight like that. It is the best mustache on the left. Let's take a call from another first timer on WYCD Wicked, going by the handle Clarity. Good to meet you. And I do understand there's some lag issues, so no worries if it takes a moment. Okay. Well, as I'm not hearing anything, Clarity, I will wait for you per your request. And in the meantime, I will show people how to peel an orange with only 3 cuts. You see, you start by cutting a circle into the tippy top. And this is how you do that part there, because what you really want is to pull the stem out. You want to pull the stem out. You go in a circle, you're scalping it like a white man you have caught raiding. Yes. Clarity, oranges indeed. Clarity, I see that you can hear me. I can't hear you. Can you try messing with your mic settings? Oh, then you cut the other end of the orange in the same manner. That's cut number 2, ladies and gentlemen. How are we going to get this clear with just one more cut? Clarity, we're still not able to hear you. So how about this? Try logging out and using that link to jump back in as the good people of the internet fret over whether I will be able to make good on my promise. Oh, did I just hear you? All right, I'm going to kick you out real quick, Clarity. And now I'm going to bring you back in. Are you there? Still nothing. All right, good people of the all right, log back in if you can, my friend. Second piece. And now the third cut, which is not even actually necessary. Right down there. It's just for the sake of neatness. And then, my word, this is classy vamping, Clarity. I'm knocking this out of the park for you. People don't even realize that I've been stalling. Here we go. Ready to see the finale. Clarity, are you there? Oh, that's brutal. I'm afraid I can't hear you. Click on, if you don't mind, there's a gear next. Oh, wait, there we go. That was the lag you were talking about. Hello, can you hear me now? Oh, 15 seconds. I'll shut up. I'm still being quiet, but I do want to show off. Three pieces, no mess. Hello, Clarity. I'm afraid we can't hear you. Click on the gear and see what microphone it says. Still can't hear. There should be a gear that says settings when you hover over it. Click on that and see if you can pull that up. And folks, I'm just typing this in the private chat. On the gear in the private. Dang it. To select your mic. Oh, I might. I hear you. I think
1, 2.
that's it. Yes, sir. I hear you. I think. All right, now mute your computer.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Oh, yes, ma'am. Mute your. Oh, yes, ma'am. Okay, so clarity, we're going to do space rules here. Since there is such a lag, I'm going to throw a question at you, and you toss an answer my way. The question is, what is the way that we attract non-participating people that don't normally vote? How do we attract them and get them to vote in November, in your opinion?
I think we demonstrate that we'll accept the best that we can get, but we're not going to settle for it in the long run, and that we're not just playing day to day, but we're trying to develop a new vision for America, a new where the little guy, what Joe talks about, that everybody has a job. Well, before that, everybody needs a place to live, and everybody needs to know that when they get sick, they're not going to be at the ER, at the urgent care, because they don't have an insurance card, or they fall through the cracks of the system. Oregon Health Plan means well, but it's underfunded. And where I live in my district, even at the Social Security level, is infested with maggots. I've had, I can't, when I talk about this, I sound paranoid, but I've had people interfere with my transition almost from the get-go back in 2014. I was one of the pioneers of the Oregon Health Plan Medicaid transgender program at OHSU.
Yeah. Wow. So you said this was in 2015? So you said this was in 2015?
July 1st, 2014 was when it was acted in Oregon. And there was nothing set up. We didn't even have board certified surgeons available to do the surgery, let alone all the other prerequisites and things that were necessary in order. So in between my surgery, which didn't happen until 2019, so it was a 5-year wait from when I first was diagnosed as having gender dysphoria, to when I actually had the surgery, which was on my 64th birthday. So I'm a late transitioner in all senses of the word, especially in America. In Thailand, the average age is about 26 or 27. So it's it's not something that you have to live with until it's so bad, that you. Where America, the average age is in the 40s, I think, still to this day. But as a pioneer, when I see these young people going through all this turmoil, it's like, well, I opened a lot of doors, but it's being closed behind me, and I almost have a survivor's guilt that I got my treatment, I got my care, I got my surgery and support, and here's these young people. I can go back over my life and see periods of time when, it kind of creeped through, but it wasn't until I lost a bandmate to lymphoma, because she couldn't really go through chemotherapy as a trans person to deal with, the end of stage, all the transphobia and homophobia in the medical profession to this day. that she decided that she was just, going to live it out. And she, after diagnosis, I think it was about a year. But she had worked as a musician all her life and never had health care. And when the city of San Francisco had a local health care, if you worked, a certain number of hours per month, you qualified for basic health care in the city of San Francisco. And it was the first time she'd had blood work done. She calls me. She says, I got some good news and some bad news. And I said, well, what's the good news? Or what's the bad news? And she goes, well, I have stage 4 Hodgkin's. And I said, well, what's the good news? My cholesterol is great.
I'm genuinely heartbroken that we don't have her anymore.
Oh, Nicole was one of the most wonderful I ever met. And I moved to the Bay Area in 1999, going through my midlife crisis after my father died. And I met her through a personal ad, and we played music for years as a duo. And then we had a string of associates, and I call them the Beckett's Diaspora, because there was a club in Berkeley that we did Wednesdays and Saturdays, and we had this young group of bohemians that come and sang with us, and George Bush, and we sang along. It was an Irish pub, and it was the most wonderful memories and things of my life, And then I moved to Bumfuck, Eastern Oregon in 2009 to take care of my mother. And here I am in the wilderness, and just a blue dot in a very redneck area. This town I live in is it's a kind of a toss-up between the evangelicals, the Mormons, and the Opus Dei Catholics. We have a very big Pentecostal Catholic community here. Speaking in tongues, came to town, and somebody out that I was a student of Matthew Fox, and he's a heretic. He was in El Salvador when Bishop Romero was killed, and Pope John said you need to quit preaching liberation theology. And he wouldn't do it. He said the poor people need to have some sort of hope that, he was excommunicated for a year. He was silenced and then excommunicated. And after 30 years with the Dominicans, Benedict went after him, our former pope that just died. And he was a member of the Inquisition office, and he went after Matthew Fox. They're about the same age, but Benedict gave to the Nazis during the World War II. I don't know if you knew that.
I did.
So anyway, I
did, and sorry, forgot about the leg.
I had a sleep doctor. This is what I'm talking about. Who, when I first met him, I talked about, being queer and trans and stuff. And he was, I have some friends that they like to dress up, and da 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 da. And then I mentioned Matthew Fox, and he said, you need to read Without Borders by Benedict. So he says, PDF, you can read online. You don't have to buy the book or anything. And then I read, and I came back and I said, well, what are we going to do about these people that were driving out of the Middle East and they're coming to Europe or to get wars in Iraq and so on and so forth? And of course, he didn't associate those things. He associated with the Latinos coming up and moving into Eastern Oregon, and more brown people and white people, and millions. This was back before Trump, and the whole thing. Oh yeah. And when I heard, I thought he was kidding. Here's a man with a PhD in neurology and he designed one of the first back in the 70s. A very intelligent man, but a maggot. And he said that if we don't do something about immigration, and this was in 2015, he said it's going to destroy supply and demand, and we, Oregon, will be just another Venezuela.
Well, first of all, it's incredibly depressing that such an educated person could be so disinformed or misinformed. I suppose that's it, misinformed. But second, unfortunately, Clarity, because of the lag and the audio issues we're having, no fault of yours, but I've got to end the call because I can't do a back and forth. But I have so many questions that I deeply hope you will contact me again, either by text or with another attempt at this.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure, Clarity. I'll see you around. Well, we got one more. First of all, Clarity, thank you. What I was interested in asking, but couldn't figure out a way to do it with the lag, is what communities you're able to find out there. If you have, I was just going to say, if you have any suggestions, write what you can do at wycdnetwork.com. But never mind. Write it anyway if you have suggestions for others in Oregon, safe havens for trans folks or queer folks or just folks that are happy to be around trans and queer folks and are not happy to be around people who aren't happy to be around trans and queer folks. That said, it just occurred to me that it's probably my job to look it up and tell you if there's any there. I'll have a gander. In the meantime, we're going to take one more call for this call-in show. That is a return to old friends of the show. This is Obsessive Audio. How are you, my friend? I'm starting to think it's me. Obsessive Audio, we can't hear you.
Hey, Jake, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Hello.
Yes, that was me. I had the mute on. I'm sorry. Hey, how's it going?
Oh, good. Oh, it's going very well. Now, I'm going to float this your way. Are you also in Canada by any chance?
I am, yep, in the great city of Toronto.
And do you also have a radio show? You can choose not to answer if you prefer not to.
No, I've got a video channel, the Obsessive Audio video channel. Got another one called the Mixercist. That's usually focused on audio and production and that sort of thing. But
were you and I think you and I were on before this. I think you and I were on True North Eager Beaver together, weren't we?
We were. That's how we met.
Yes. Yes.
Paul and Douglas, yeah. I listen to that show pretty much every day. Not as early as they do it live. It's usually later on in the day, but
yes, I always me
awesome.
too, and I always feel like a child because I just can't. They get up at they are ready to go with a radio show by 7 a.m. I'm just like, my God. At
they get up at 5 or something.
They might, yes, yeah. Best case scenario, by the time they're halfway through the show, I'm just leaving the arms of Tyra Banks in my mind and returning to this awful world.
And every day too, Monday to Friday, and of course the pubcasts once a month when they can do it, which is usually most months, live from the Lieutenant's Pump in Ottawa.
Yes. Well, look. I got thrown because you've never, when you've called in, you've never plugged your stream before. I'm going to plug it. Go watch Obsessive Audio. He's fun.
Yeah, we're going to have some new stuff coming up on Monday, Tuesday too, as well.
Awesome. All right, my friend. I will be there, or I will be square. What were your what you have to talk about? I can.
Well, first up, I had a real quick correction to issue because I was on the chat a couple days ago. One of the last things I was talking about the Israel conflict. And I'd noted that the government of Israel had issued some offshore contracts right after the October 7th attack. And I think I had read a misleading article, which was kind of implying that it was right off of Gazan waters. But I looked into it, and I looked into the companies. It was hard to find where they actually are. I had to plug in geo coordinates and stuff, but they're not right off the coast there. I think they're somewhat north of that, but they are expanding that area, and they did issue this stuff right after the war began.
How you can tell that you are not dealing with a MAGA stream person caring enough about whether or not they were accurate from days back to issue a correction. Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate
Yeah, no, I just had to clarify because you see that stuff, you go, oh. I mean, of course, all conflicts are primarily about resources and territory and money and industry, and you get you get almost paranoid about it. It's like, okay, who's making money off this? What do they want? And who's behind it all? We've got up here in Ontario, we've got a Premier Doug Ford, and this I have looked into quite thoroughly, and a number of others have. He's issuing contracts, construction contracts, out to this company called Drabag, Drabag, 27.8% owned by Oleg Deripaska. Russian oligarch.
Really?
You know who he is in the States. You know who he is.
Yes.
He's the guy who was behind all the election shit.
Yeah.
There was just an FBI higher up in the FBI who's just got arrested. He was doing time for dealing with this guy. He's on the Canadian sanctions list, and I'm assuming he's also on the American one.
Oh, absolutely. I've been hearing about Deripaska for about, how long is it? About 5 years now, since halfway through Trump's presidency, before we even knew how bad it would get. It continually shocks me how much overlap there is. We don't just have the same things happening in various countries around the world. We have the same people doing them.
It's the same people. I see the anti-corporatist there. He says the king of aluminum. Absolutely right. There's the aluminum company. The name eludes me at the moment. But when the wall came down and the Soviet Union disbanded, they sold all of the public goods for tenths of pennies on the dollar. And there was a big battle to see who would end up with those resources, the mines, the plants, et cetera, et cetera. And these were literal gang wars with people offing each other to get to the supply. And Deripaska is one of them. Not a nice dude.
It's fascinating to me that he's tied up with the Greenbelt scandal. That's
yeah. I think this one was it's Doug Ford's new "Get It Done" bill, which is mostly deregulation, so that he can push through, like you said, a highway. I think that they also hired this Drabag company for a tunnel in Niagara Falls. There's like 4 or 5 projects I've seen.
So forgive me, you're dealing with somebody who is both already overwhelmed and also in a country that tries intentionally to keep me ignorant. Are you telling me that this is not related to the Khalid Rashid et al. Greenbelt scandal? This is a separate scandal that Deripaska...
I don't know. I think no, because I think this highway is supposed to go through some Greenbelt. But no, again, don't quote me on that, or I'll have to come back in a couple of days and say, no, it actually doesn't.
Well, that's just incentive to quote you on it. But yeah. All right, fair enough.
But I feel like we're being attacked by Russia with domestic accomplices. Is basically it. And the fact that there aren't bombs going off, or there are some cyber attacks, but the fact that we're not seeing that kind of physical warfare doesn't mean that we're not under attack. And I think that's what people have to realize, is that we're getting it. We're getting it with the disinformation. It's very advanced. Russia, as you know, they're experts at disinformation. There's a job description that's called political technologist. We don't have that title over here, and you know what they do.
Abrogate. Yeah.
So I mean, because look at it. It's the election stuff. It's the pandemic stuff. It's divide and conquer, man.
Oh, all right. So first of all, I want to reference the way I misheard that. To vibe and conquer. That's what I feel we should be doing. basically
Violent
convincing people that we are chill and therefore come hang out with us. Also, let's talk about defeating the man. Man, I you know how deer can't see orange? Are you familiar with that?
No, what is that?
Basically, the reason hunters wear bright orange is because they're hunting deer, and deer can't see that. Actually, a lot of animals can't see
Wow,
orange.
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, to them it's just a purely gray color, but for a hunter it's a safety feature because all right. So the equivalent of orange to deer for humans is something being boring. If something is boring, we just cannot wrap our minds around it, or we are like our brains choose not to tell us that it's a significant thing that's happening if it's happening in a boring way. Because of that, I feel like we've just sort of slid past the fact that we are currently engaged in a Cold War with Russian billionaires, and our main adversary are literally called trolls, and our other adversary are bots. They're robots.
Yeah.
But we have Russian trolls. They're literally paid to go cause in America and Canada and England and basically I'm just naming English speaking countries. Basically any place that opposes Russia. They're paid to go raise hell. And they do so in a very boring manner. They leave shitty little comments. They make bots that boost the algorithm of the worst people. And because it's such a boring approach to a very destructive thing, I feel like they've gotten away with it because we're not actively fighting it. What I would beg everybody to do: report bots when you see them. It's that simple. If you see
Definitely.
an account that is 2 weeks old and it's saying things that are incredibly inflammatory, that is a Ruski.
Yeah, they
All
joined,
you have to do.
less than a few months ago, and they've got 2 followers, and the
Yes.
name is American Patriots Superman 50679. Yeah.
Yep.
And we're desensitized to it. I mean, I'm still on Twitter, but I'm trying to get off of it. I'm trying to find a good replacement. I don't know if there is really one yet.
From what I've seen, Blue Sky at least looks quite similar. It feels somewhat similar to me. It's no longer invite only, to my knowledge. But if it is, then I have a bunch of invites saved up.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I did the Mastodon, and that runs on something called it's a protocol, and it's called ActivityPub. And I think Threads was going to open that up so that there would be the ability to cross communicate between Threads and Mastodon. I'm not sure if Blue Sky's in on that one too. Because that would be that's the idea of decentralized social media.
That is what I want to see. And on a somewhat related note, if you ever, as a man in your line of work, ever come across freeware such as OBS that you think doesn't get enough love, let me know about it, and I will sing its praises because I think that's the answer.
Absolutely. OBS is so good, so good.
It is. It is.
And there's nothing you can't do because of it's open source and everybody writes the plugins, they're called, and you install I need to do this. You find the plugin that does it. Maybe there'll be 2 or 3 to choose from. Find the one that works for you, and it's free.
Yes, and it's the reason we don't all have like competing social media streaming services that are mining our data in just in order to organize our clips or what have you. It's the reason we don't have to pay $200 for a license to Adobe to do that. It's just because somebody good and early got in there and said, here's a free version, and the free version works. Obsessive Audio, I'm going to toss it to you. Anything you want to talk about, toss out there. We'll talk about it to wrap the show.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I covered it, and we kind of started veering into the Russian disinformation. Anti-corporatists is pointing out it's not just them; it's other countries around doing it. For instance, and of course, Russia is not just doing it to the U.S. They're doing it close to Ukraine, Moldova, Transnistria, Africa. Russia's all over Africa. If you follow Wagner, there's an excellent documentary about the Wagner Group and what they've been doing in Africa over the last bunch of years.
Who's even in control of Wagner anymore? Prigozhin got Navalny'd.
Yeah, I wondered if it got dissolved or just sort of absorbed into the normal
Ministry of Defense.
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume so. That, or there is some newly crowned oligarch who's got a bunch of Nazis fighting for him now.
Well, I mean, there are a bunch of these militia, mercenary groups. Wagner wasn't the only one. It's kind of like these oligarchs have their private armies.
It's kind of exactly like that. Yeah. They very much do.
There was a hope, when the Ukraine war started. After about a year or so, there was a hope around the time where Prigozhin was acting up that it would spark some kind of instability there, that these oligarchs would start fighting each other to see who's next in line.
I was cheering it on. It's not dead yet, that hope, for me anyway. I just think Putin has bought himself more and more time, but eventually I'd never see a dictatorship end gently,
No. There is a guy, and this is take this name down, Gene Sharp, GeneSharp. He passed away a few years ago. But he had a foundation, and it was all about how to overthrow a dictator and to do it primarily non-violently, and how that actually is more successful more often than a violent revolution. And he covered like the solidarity movement in Poland, a bunch of different countries. It was a long study. He devoted a lot of his life to it. Gene Sharp, there's a video on YouTube. It's called "How to Start a Revolution."
Ooh, hold on, I'm typing that.
How to Start a Revolution.
Beautiful. Okay. Oh wow.
Yeah, anyway, thought I'd throw that one out there. But and as far as Russia's concerned, I thought that with the death of Alexei Navalny, that might be this might be the moment. But I think what we saw in Russia was very few people coming out, just to pay the respects, to lay some flowers, and getting arrested.
Yeah, has Navalny, has he already has Alexei Navalny been buried? Alexei Navalny's body 8 hours ago was handed over to his mother.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that would mean that we presumably have a burial coming up. Let's say this, and let's leave this on a cliffhanger for both our audiences. Let's keep our eyes peeled and see if Alexei Navalny's funeral turns into Vladimir Putin's wake.
Oh, Petey. That's a haiku there. That was poetic.
I hope it makes sense. I'll look back and see if it does. I hope it's the beginning of the end for his political career. Sorry.
I hope so. I hope that the West, and when I say that, I'm ground zero would be the MAGA segment of the Republican Party. They're holding up aid, and it's not a good thing. It's not a good look. The allies are concerned. Can we really trust the U.S.? What's going to happen to NATO? What if Trump gets in?
Yeah, you can't, and you can't even do it if Joe Biden gets reelected, or you can't even do it if Kamala Harris gets elected and for 2 terms, because we've demonstrated that one of our parties is absolutely irresponsible, and no promise made by the Democrats can be trusted through a Republican administration. So my caution to the world, and even though it breaks my heart to say this to, frankly, our closest ally and the only country that's ever bloodied our nose properly in a war. Don't trust us until we have sanity well restored.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, and the Republicans of all people, the Republicans, they were the hawks. If you're old enough to remember, they were the hard stance against Russia party. They were the national security party, and they were the spreading and defending democracy party.
Turns out they were always just the war party.
Yeah, pretty much. So hopefully there's Ukraine's in a little bit of trouble now in terms of running out of ammunition. They had pieced together kind of a hodgepodge of Russian munitions, different brands, different sizes. And the problem with that is when you've got all this different equipment and you run out or something breaks, there's less compatibility. You can't use this shell in this piece. And NATO, of course, has standardized all this stuff. So it's the 155 millimeter shell is the big one.
At least they've got a lot of dropped Russian guns to use for now, and thankfully Sweden has jumped in with a sizable contribution. But it just there's no excuse to be made. The U.S. has let down an ally, and
I mean, the countries that know him the best, the countries that understand what's going on the best, are the ones with the borders: Poland, Lithuania, Latvia. Who else? Estonia. They know NATO. Finland. Yeah, and they're the next front line. We deal with this now, right? We deal with this now, or we deal with it later, at much greater cost. Human cost, economic cost, all of it, and time. It'll take us longer to get out of it.
I have
because he ain't gonna stop.
Hours in front of this microphone trying to communicate what you just accomplished in a sentence. That's it exactly. We deal with it now or later at greater cost. That's it exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Well done. I think that's going to close the show.
That's great. Well, I'll just leave one more thought because I don't want to keep you too long. But I watched Zelensky at the Munich Security Conference last week. I was up really late, and it started. I got to watch it. And there were two things he said that stuck with me, and I can't remember the first one. The second one is that most people in the West, most Western countries, are not psychologically prepared to deal with what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And something to think about.
It is. I thank you for it. Obsessive Audio, thank you for joining me.
Cheers. Great to see you again.
I'll see you around the block, my friend.
Right on.
Oh, gang, I had a blast hanging out with you tonight. That was a delightful and diverse call-in show. Just exactly what I was hoping for. I think we're going to return to these with some regularity, but I don't want to make any promises for a schedule now because none of us know if I'll be able to keep it up. But I do enjoy these shows. I want to do more of them in the future. If you enjoyed watching tonight, consider leaving a like, consider subscribing, and turning on notifications and such. And if you like the song you're about to hear, if you like the conversation you just heard, go to Obsessive Audio's channel. If you like the voice of Wireless Mike, go to My Dramatic Impact. And if you like the song you're about to hear, go to DonaldJamesX, all on YouTube. This has been WYCD Wicked, that stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake.